Hello, 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 friends. Nicholas here with DIVO TED Talks, Devoted Talks, depending on how you want to say it, where we take ancient wisdom and practices through a modern lens and experience to help you and those you love in suffering in your personal and greater worlds. Oh, my friends, my friends, my friends, I am excited to be here. Of course, the heater cut on immediately when I tried to do this. So we're going to have to remove the background noise. You're probably not going to hear it. But anyway, it distracted me. But I think that's a good way to guide this episode, right? How frequently are we doing something and then something for just even the briefest moment catches our attention, catches our focus? And then we forget what we're doing. We get lost in the weeds, or we can't quite get back to where we were at. And what I do personally is I am a huge proponent for hot yoga because there's so much that can distract you. Like, I actually wear shirts when I practice hot yoga because it is hard for me when I have a drop of sweat go from one wrist all the way down to the other, and I can feel it go every inch. And that is very distracting for me, so much so that I come out of myself. But then also at the same time, it makes me realize that I've lost my focus, which then helps me get back in. So I don't really know if it actually was a bad thing in the first place or not. So life is going to happen. Life is going to fluctuate. There's going to be sounds. There's going to be noises. There's going to be experiences and things that startle us and things that give us joy and or stop us in our tracks. And yet life still continues to move forward and go on. So what do we do with that? Well, the more you practice having distraction around you or challenge around you, and you're able to persist and breathe through it and show up for it, the more able, when life throws those curveballs or things at you, they don't really phase you. And so you're able to walk through them as if they don't exist or they have little to no impact on you whatsoever. Walking through the fire without getting burned. And so I do know that the ancient yogic practice of tapas was to help burn away, metaphorically and maybe even physically, the things that prevent you from your deepest forms of practice. And so your exposure to that hard environmental stimulus or that hard uh, moment helps you rise above, helps you move beyond, move around, and get beyond. And it's a beautiful thing. But we do live in a society and modernity where that isn't always preferred, right? Hard isn't always the way of the game. And just because it's hard doesn't mean it's good for you. And just because it's easy doesn't mean it's good for you either, right? A lot of times people seek self care in the form of silence or the form of massage and stuff because life is so stressful on them that they're so bound up, pent up, and abused that that's the kind of self care that's required to help harmonize again or to rebalance them or restore order within them. And yeah, self care sometimes is not very dramatic. It isn't a big day at the spa. Sometimes self-care is nice pillows, making your bed, brushing your teeth well, cleaning around the house, spending time with your animals, right? Self-care is anything that you do in furtherance of yourself. But how much of life is distracting us from these things because we think or feel like this thing that has caught our attention needs to have our attention, or we're not even aware that we're constantly being disturbed and jostled around, right? It's like a sporting event when there's all this action going on, but you don't even realize, especially in tennis, that your head is whipping side to side because you're so into it. And then later you have neck problems and you're like, well, I don't know why my neck hurts. Yeah, because you've been abusing yourself with the things you're choosing to focus on, right? One of the forms or pathways to disease is improper use of senses. And that could be loud noises or not enough noise or, distorted amounts of things coming at us that we can't digest or we're not easily able to work through that then um, causes disease because the system isn't functioning the same in relation to all of that exposure, right? Our body will always adapt. Our body will always get to, excuse me, a point where it tolerates things. And what needs to develop to create that tolerance is very different depending on the situations and the person and their constitution. So, what does that mean for us? One, don't take things so seriously. Getting distracted isn't a problem, unless you're taking a test, I suppose. But sometimes my distractions would actually help me find answers when I was taking tests. That was me personally. But that's just an example, right? Anecdotes are viable evidence. They may not be the full story, but they are viable evidence, even so. And if you have examples in your life of things and circumstances and places and whatever that help you understand your life and yourself better, that is a right answer. Now, how do I tie this all together to yoga and Ayurveda? Purpose isn't to be perfect. The purpose is to be conditioned for the fluctuations of life. Stress over time creates adaptation. Adaptation through that exposure creates wisdom, and that wisdom helps you to move more fully through life. Doesn't mean you're not going to get burned, but it makes you better able to move through life and the fire and the flames and or the fluctuations of life without getting knocked over, taken out at the knees, or whatever else could happen to you, right? Sometimes distraction makes us more focused. Sometimes too much focus makes us distracted. You're trying to find the harmony of these opposing qualities and opposing forces, the gunas, such as they are in Ayurveda. 10 pairs of opposites. But what if we existed in the middle? What if we existed in that point where you kind of move back and forth between them, right? When you're driving a car, your hand isn't perfectly still on the wheel. It's constantly moving. There's like these little tiny micro adjustments. Sometimes they express as bigger movements in the car. I know I'm not the best of drivers, but I won't affirm that. I am as good a driver as I need to be to not have any accidents and not harm anybody else day to day, week to week, month to month. So my parting words and parting idea to you, don't get on yourself for not being focused. Maybe you're not ADD, maybe you're not ADHD, maybe you just got distracted and forgot to practice how to get back into the moment. There's a lot of different practices out there to help facilitate getting into the moment and being present. Which one resonates with you is really individualized. So I trust that it will reveal itself to you if you set the intention that you find it or that you learn it. All right, my friends, it's rough out there, but remember, it is your birthright to be well and be free.